And there they go. Sam F. Davis coming up this Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. We drew a field of 12 plus 1, also eligible 10, 4, 2, 1 for the Derby points for the Sam F. Davis going to mile 16th there at Tampa Bay Downs. They'll all get points. There's no Bafferts in this one. So if you're a Baffert hater, you got to be smiling here. All right, Magic, I'm going to kick it to you first. I thought this was the trickiest field we've seen yet for a Derby prep. What about you?
Definitely, and for me, a big reason is I never play Tampa more than I don't really overlook at Tampa a couple times a year. I remember when the pandemic first hit in 2020, and this was like the one of the few tracks that kept going, and I kept trying to play Tampa, and it was just 47 to 1 shot over 56 to 1 shot favorite. You go 2 days where a single favorite doesn't win a race, and I was like, I can't figure this track out. So when I come into this, I'm basing a lot of this off of the class of the horses and what I think they're project doing, and that leads me to the 3 Classic Causeway, who is, he's your favorite at 3 to 1, but the Kentucky Jockey Club continues to just produce winner after winner after winner. Voida Barrio, we just talked about winning the Holy Bull Stakes last week. You have Call Me Midnight, who won the LeComte Stakes a couple of weeks ago. He was distant in this race, and I watched the replay for this. I was like, okay, there's a few horses exiting it, including Classic Causeway. Let me see, do I want to still pick him? And first off, how good was Smile Happy that night? Holy shit, that horse. If he returns, at 80% of what he was in that race in his in the Risen Star next weekend, that's going to be crazy. But yeah, I went with Classic Causeway on top because I thought that not only did I think that race is producing a lot of good horses, I thought that he had the best race in the Breeders' Futurity. And if you remember that race, the mile 16th at Keeneland, it's a real quick run to that first turn, and he was way out in the 13 pole. Jose Ortiz did everything he could to get him to try and win, hustles him out of the gate, puts him on the front end, tries to catch a breather. And for a horse stretching out for 2 turns, first time facing winners, and that was a lot to have him do that. And for him to not quit and to get third and to really just miss second by a half length was really very impressive to me. So all that to say, I love Classic Causeway in this spot, and I love that Irad's like, you know what, I'm going to give up on Gulfstream for the day and go ride this horse at Tampa.
I'm with you. I put Classic Causeway on top as well. I think a lot of people out there are trying to get a price in this race. I've seen it a lot, and we'll talk about a few. I don't think this is a race you got to go short in. I think this is one we're going to have to use a few, and we'll talk about some. But I think what you said about Classic Causeway is right. And listen, if you're paying attention, the number one factor has to be the Kentucky Jockey Club and the way that race has come back. Now, you have Classic Causeway, and then you also have the number 9 Howling Time coming out of that race. So you have 2 coming out of that race to this one. And I think, to be brutally honest, I think the big difference is Dale Romans trains the 9. So I don't think we can come in here real confident with Howling Time. And that's why I went Classic Causeway on top. Big factor in this race, Magic. I think the pace, it looks kind of ridiculous in here. There's a lot of horses that want to go. Now, that's not great for Classic Causeway. I'd like to see him on the lead, but the good news is I think he has enough speed to clear like the first group that want to go. But I think he does have the patience, and he showed it in the Kentucky Jockey Club, to sit off if anybody is just going crazy out front. So I think he kind of gets the trip here, and I think as long as Irad can get him to kind of settle and he listens to the instructions of whatever Irad thinks is best, which he showed he could do a little bit last time. I think he's in a good spot here. What do you think, though? Is the pace worrisome for you?
It was, and that's why I agree with you that I think you can go for a price. And one thing that I like Vinny's right. How crazy how good the Kentucky Jockey Club has been, and how bad the Breeders' Futurity has been. Usually the Breeders' Futurity can produce some really nice. We had essential quality out of that race last year. That was a big one. Pace-wise, yeah, there's a lot, because it's not just you have Classic Causeway, who's got the 2-turn speed, but just to his inside, a horse that you drafted in the Fantasy League, Unpredictable Bay, coming out of back-to-back sprints. We haven't seen him since November, so you'd assume the horse is going to be really engaged, ready to go. He's got that bullet work over the track on February 5th, so he should be showing some speed. You've got other ones. Trademark could go fast. Shipsational could go fast. Howling Time, depending on what. I think Joe Talamo learned last out, don't go to the lead with that horse. But, there is a lot of speed here. So do you want to talk about other prices? Do you want to talk about the speed setup? Because I'm really curious. We don't talk about it now, but I really want to hear from you about the 2, because you drafted him. I never heard of the horse, and I kind of want to hear, your deeper thoughts on him.
I was going to transition to the two, so that's a good way to do it. Yeah, listen, I am very interested to see what Unpredictable Bay, the two horse, does. Now, look, the pace setup doesn't look great, but I think he is the fastest horse in the race. And you want to talk about a horse who really seemed to put it all together last time out. It's Unpredictable Bay. So when this horse moved over to the dirt 3 races back, got second, got beat by Trafalgar, pretty nice horse, down in Louisiana. Not bad at all. Got beat a neck in the next start by a horse named B Sud. That horse isn't great, but then won by 9 the last time out at Churchill Downs. So I think it's really interesting that he shows up here. I've been monitoring the horse. I've been monitoring the workouts. He's working very well at Tampa Bay Downs. Now, what that means, we'll find out. It's not like there's monsters working in the morning to kind of compare him to, but I think he's interesting. I think 20-1. I think he makes a ton of sense at 20-1. I think a lot of people think, well, 1 at 6 furlongs like that, maybe this horse isn't a horse that could go long, but I don't know. The breeding says 2 turns shouldn't be a problem for this horse. So what did you think of Unpredictable Bay?
He's just a giant wild card to me because it's odd. You look at it, first of all, the horse has 7 starts, and it's nice that he's never missed the board, first of all. I mean, you can keep a lot of other horses in training for that barn when you're pulling in, that kind of efforts this horse has been doing. So it's nice to see, especially for a smaller barn. But, starting on synthetic and then trying to do turf and then, finally trying dirt, it's like, okay, that worked. And yeah, you beat Trafalgar, who was a great horse in that spot, but he's just a wild card. I don't know what he's going to do, and I do like that he's got the works over the Tampa surface. For me, Tampa can play, in my opinion, pretty quirky. So if you find a horse that likes it, try to ride that horse. And so that kind of, with some of the other horses that I was going to use in this spot, was where I was leaning. I would use the 2 if I was going multi-race wagers, partly because of, I know how much you like this horse, his prospects, and I'm like, I don't see it, but I know Aaron sees something in this horse, and because of that, leaning on someone who's, admittedly smarter than I am at this a little bit, I'll throw this horse on, especially at 20-1.
I think a deep ticket is where he belongs. I don't have any huge plans for this horse to win this race and go on and win the Kentucky Derby, but I do think he's mildly interesting. Okay, now what about the 2 horses at 12-1 for Mark Casse? I think they're big time players in here. I'm referring to the number 4 Golden Glider, who won an allowance over this track last time out at 1 mile and 40 yards, and then Volcanic, who broke his maiden last time out at Gulfstream Park, running 1 mile. Both got decent speed figures for those efforts. What do you think here? The 4 and the 10, they're both 12-1. Like I said, they both kind of come from out of it. Pace could set up for these 2. What do you think about the Casse runners?
I do like them both in here. The 4 Golden Glider, I think, this is my second pick, and it's the one, if you're watching the YouTube feed, it's the horse that's in the background here. So he's undefeated, and you're like, okay, so he wins at Woodbine. Remember, I'm on the 16th at Woodbine because of how long that track is. It's like Belmont. That's actually a 1-turn race. So he makes his 2-turn debut at Tampa, and it's a midweek optional claiming race, and there's 5 horses. And you look at that and be like, okay, whatever. Guys, this is the race Emmanuel was supposed to be in. He was going up against Emmanuel, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. Mark Casse said, oh, I know Emmanuel's going to that race. A lot of people knew Emmanuel was going to that race. I'm sending this horse there. And then Emmanuel drops out. He wins for fun. That, to me, said as much about what he did on the track as anything, is that Casse was like, okay, I'll go face you, 6-horse field Emmanuel. So I really love him in this spot. Gallardo is an extremely talented rider. If I'm playing Tampa, the first rider I look to see where he's at is going to be Antonio Gallardo. So I love him here. Volcanic's interesting because actually on the Magic Mike show later today, we're covering the Gulfstream Park late pick 4. The horse that Volcanic beat by a neck, Charge It, is a 6-5 favorite in the race starting the pick 4. And Mike and I, a few minutes before you and I went live, were having a debate about that horse and our opinion. So we're very divisive on that. But Mark Casse likes to do this with horses that he has high opinions of, where when they're 2, I don't care if they're a maiden. If they're good enough, I'm throwing them in a stakes race. And the horse almost breaks his maiden at second out behind Midnight Worker and Bourbon Heist and goes straight to a grade 1 race. And it's like, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. It doesn't work out. But the fact that Cassie's showing the faith then wheels him back, and Edwin Gonzalez is a jockey that Mark loves at Gulfstream Park, brings him over here to keep the mount. I think you've got to use these horses. I think one of these 2, I think, is going to really pop and challenge for that win there.
Yeah, I think both of these horses are very, very interesting for Casse. Christopher chimes in and says Casse and Gallardo up at Tampa will be lucky.
I did think that.
I saw 12-1. I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But again, if you've been around this game long enough, and really it's only a year or two, you need to see these trends and go, okay, that horse is 12-1. I know it's not going to be 12-1. So yeah, temper the expectations. I had him second too, Magic. I don't know. I think this horse just kind of fits the bill. I was really excited that day he ran. Yeah, that was the race. Emmanuel had a fever and skipped, and now Golden Glider's here. So I'm excited for him. I think he's going to kind of be a lot of fun in this race. I think he'll make a run. It's just, is he good enough?
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes first.